Infernum's final content update came out over 2 years ago, being version 1.9, and a couple months back it was announced by the Infernum team that it would not be updating to the Sunken Sea version and onwards. To me, Infernum elevates Calamity to be one of the best gaming experiences I had. With a potential man update around the corner or even out by the time I had this video released, I wanted to master the mod, which made me fall in love with modded Terraria, and honestly got me to start posting videos on YouTube by no-hitting every single Infernum boss. And to be safe, I threw in some extra add-ons just for fun. So, the run is simple. Can I no-hit every single Infernum fight? Before anything, the rules which I followed were the official Infernum no-hit rules, and you may notice throughout the video that at times I go egregiously under the minimum hit length for certain bosses. I went back after completing the run and basically doing large chunks of editing to no-hit those fights, which you can find in the description of this video in a playlist. And also in the description you can find another playlist with the entire playthrough completely unedited. You can use as background noise, or whatever you want to use it as. With all that necessary yap out of the way, I can now talk about my game plan in the run. The class which I want to stick with throughout the run is entirely Summoner. Summoner in Calamity is notorious for doing a little bit of damage. Just a smidge, you know? And second, I can focus on dodging and not aiming since, well, I still kinda can't do that. For early game Summoner, your armor set plus weapons are pretty much given to you for free. No, seriously, take out these little robots plus the blue ones too, swing to the jungle, collect some jungle spores, box yourself in, and then you're golden. Although I do go Summoner for the vast majority of the run, prioritizing damage isn't first and foremost. That goes to mobility. Which brings me into the best accessory of the entire run, the Magma Luminescence. It provides you a 20% movement speed increase and also doubles your acceleration and deceleration. This accessory allows you to get away with incredibly risky, and I'll mention it when it comes up, but man, some really dumb stuff which doesn't feel real that I get away with. With all that being said, King Slime is up first and he went down in a mere 9 attempts. Weirdly enough, the Desert Scourge is actually tied with the second highest death count in all of pre-Hardmode, being 48. And the Eye, besides me doing quite literally the biggest choke of all time, dying to fall damage, not even the boss, this gotta be like next level art of choking or something. I eventually beat him in 12 attempts. With the Eye now being dead, it brings me to the pre-Hivemind / pre-Perforator section in pre-Hardmode. This unlocks me the use of the Goblin Tinkerer. Also, side note, I didn't know if you could use the weapons or, accessories combined with the Goblin Tinkerer through King Slime to Eye of Cthulhu. I assumed you can't, but if you can, then, well, I guess I just kind of nerfed myself during that section. Anyways, back on topic, we can now combine these items into stronger accessories, also add the new dash I got from beating the Eye of Cthulhu, and now it's time to fight the first boss of this next section, the Acropolis Machine. This is actually the first add-on fight, and somehow I managed to pull the win in my second attempt. And since I'm already talking about add-ons, and most of the people watching probably didn't read the no-hit Google Docs rules, let alone the Calamity one, we can talk about which add-on items I'm allowed to use. None. It's a no-hit run, bro. Like, this is just common sense. I'm only allowed to use vanilla Calamity Infernum items, so I don't want to hear anyone being like, actually, why don't you just use the overpowered Bite and Blast weapon? So yeah, I just want to address that right now, since we're already on topic with the add-ons. Now back to everyone's regular broadcasting. Also, side note, I do use vanity items because I want to sometimes feel pretty. That's all. Crabulon is up next, and another fun fact is the fact that Crabulon is the only boss fight throughout the entire run that I managed to no-hit on my first try. And then like 2 seconds later I immediately died to a cave bed. I opened his boss bag and oh damn, I didn't get it. You see, I was really hoping to get the fungicide from him. To put it bluntly, it is still incredibly broken. It homes on hit and does incredible damage. I was planning on finishing this section in pre-hard mode with that specific weapon. But you see, I just no-hit Crabulon. Either world shouldn't be that bad, right? Damn, I got absolutely clapped by it. So yeah, I need the weapon. Really, really bad. The biggest flex I can say throughout the entire run is the fact that I managed to no-hit Crabulon 3 times in a row. Actually 4, since I never died in any of the following no-hits after my first. That's my biggest flex in the entire run. that have a positive KD against Crab. Yeah. And then on my first attempt against the Eater of Worlds using the Fungicide, I managed to beat him. Though I think it kinda was just luck and, you know, beginner's luck with a new weapon. And using the same weapon, I managed to no-hit the brain in 3 attempts. Oh wait, I'm under. 25 attempts later, the brain goes down. Hive Mind's up next, and he's just a boring fight. A lot of waiting and just not that much action, honestly. 10 attempts, and he goes down. Pretty easy, but just a boring fight. This fight also marks the last time that I use a different class other than Summoner to beat a boss. From now on, it's basically Summoner till the very end. As I mentioned before, my current setup was switched back to Summoner to fight the Perforators, and man, I really forgot how strong the Vile Feeder really is with a proper Summoner build. It just really tears apart the boss. I thought the Perforators would be the first major roadblock in the entire run, especially the worm sections, but they go down really easily, especially with me using Rage and Adrenaline. The Perforators go down in a mere 6 attempts. With me now being in pre-Skeletron, we unlock the final summon in pre-hard mode, the Dank Staff. You give me basically the Vile Feeder that does more damage and is more accurate? Yes please. I got Wings, Volcanic Jelly, and now it's time for the Queen. She's pathetically easy and goes down in 3 attempts. Duclops is up next and hold on, wait. Ref, is that even legal? Go to the Infernum dock. Wait, there's like nothing here against it. Okay, what about the main Calamity dock? Oh, there's still nothing against it. Well, I guess it's legal. Now it's time for the funny Bone Man, and I feel like all Infernum players share the same experience of them getting absolutely railed and clapped by this boss on your first playthrough. It's like a canon event, I swear. So it's very jarring finding this fight, well, now, easy. Skeletron felt very controlled in comparison to how it felt in the first ever run I did, and it really showed you how far I really came as a player in Infernum. Now we move on to Pre-Wall of Flesh, which marks the final section in pre-hard mode. I got here very fast for a no-hit run. Seriously, only a mere 10 hours. That's super fast in comparison to a normal no-hit run's progression time. Now it's Slime God, and well, Slime God is easy just like the rest of them. 195. Yeah, sorry for the flashbang, but this fight was like a huge whiplash moment in the entire run. Up to this point it's been an incredibly smooth ride. No, like, seriously. Desert Scourge being the highest death I had to a boss being 48, that's really low in the average no-hit run. To put this in perspective on how big of a whiplash moment this was for me, Desert Scourge, as I previously mentioned, was the highest death count I had up to this point. You have to times that death count by 4, and you still don't reach the death count that I had to Slime God. This is a very roundabout way of me saying this, but I got my ass kicked in this fight. I just didn't get it, and the first 80 attempts, I basically had no progress. It was like rolling a dice. Sometimes I rolled high and got pretty far, but the vast majority of the time I rolled low and died within seconds. I eventually moved to my more open arena, which is the same arena that I used for the Perforators plus Brain of Cthulhu, but it still felt the same. No progress. It wasn't until my early 100 attempts that I thought of something really dumb. Could I outrun the Paladins? I mean, that's a stupid question, that'll never work. Oh my god, it's actually working. So, turns out, if you add Quick on all of your accessories, plus place a bunch of sunflowers and pretty much all the movement buffs that you could possibly get up to this point, plus the MVP of the run in general sense, the Magnoluminescence, you can basically outrun the Paladins. Now this brings me into a new problem. Well, my summons kinda can't hit the boss. Slap a random ranger weapon, then boom, we're good to go. And yeah, this is like the most scuffed no-hit run and the first major abuse of the Magnoluminescence, and it won't be the last one of the run, I promise you that. Now onto the Wall of Flesh. He is also tied with the Desert Scourge for killing me the second most in all of pre-hard mode for bosses at least. The real challenge of the fight was really the laser walls and like, actually reaching the minimum hit. I had it clear like way before what I got for my actual clear, but I was around 5 seconds under, so I basically had to redo it. Laser wall was always a problem, but once you slap a feather falling potion, the laser wall becomes very easy to dodge, and just like that we make it into hard mode. Also, the dang stuff is stupidly broken. This thing is way better than any other option. Throughout all of pre-hard mode, except the obvious exception of them. The bosses were, well, kind of pushovers. No, I mean seriously, just look at this section. It's barely over 9 minutes if you don't include the introduction. There's nothing notable to talk about. But now that I'm in hard mode, this is where the bosses actually start to get hard. In hard mode. Now that I'm in hard mode, I need to get my early hard mode summoner set up. And just like pre-hard mode, it is very, very, very easy. Unlike melee or ranger, which you have to go mining to basically get your armor, and for melee, pretty much wait for a mini boss to spawn in to get your storm saber, the summoner class really caters to my generation, Gen Z, by giving me immediate stimulation by farming mobs to get the ancient ice chunk, and for my armor set, basically by farming spiders to get my armor set. I also want to pick up the pixie wings since harpy wings aren't available yet. The wings, which I really wanted to go for, aren't available till I at least beat one mech and get basically the hard mode anvil. Find the wizard somewhere in the cave or underground, get the buffing candles I needed, and even did the goblin invasion for my summoner accessory drop, which for some reason I didn't equip immediately. And with all that being said, I pretty much have the optimal setup for summoner, and even if I don't, it's basically good enough. And now it's time for Dreadnoughtless. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I'm just terrible at pronouncing things. Was my setup good enough? It was not. Okay. Let's pivot to the giant clam. I did this so I can get the deep diver. It is a ram dust which gives you iframe, so it seems like a good fit till I get the ornate shield. And now we are ready to rock. This is still not looking good at all. Even with me picking up the Rod of Discord, it was just not it. I kept getting destroyed by the boss, which Dreadnoughtless is required for the Infernum no-hit playthrough. It was just a massacre. And before I knew it, it was the second highest death count I had to a boss, and this was my first boss of hard mode. I was feeling pretty demoralized, from going from a lightning fast pace in pre-hard mode to a wall at my first obstacle. On the Infernum no-hit Google Docs, the Dreadnoughtless and Queen Slime are in the same color and, the same tier. So I decided to do her first to boost my motivation. I know you're not meant to, but I didn't use any weapons or armor set past, Queen Slime, or I got from Queen Slime, so don't worry. And after 124 attempts later, it was over. With the bosses leading into the mechs and, that bunch now beaten, it was now time for me to challenge the mechs. Is what a normal person would say, but we're going back to the Infernum docs to talk about more about this section. For this section in hard mode, the rules basically boils down to you fighting the 6 bosses in whichever order you want, and you can also use the loot from the boss you just beaten on the remaining ones left. Also, the Brimstone Elemental can't be your first boss since you need a 2-2 hard mode pickaxe to, summon the boss in. That's just common sense, to be honest. And also Lumeris, a boss from Calamity Entropy, is also thrown in here since that's the same tier she's meant to be fought in, which is this tier. Okay, moving on. Now, the question at hand is what is the order I fight them in? The order I chose is not by difficulty like in the normal run, which would typically be seen like this, but in familiarity, which I feel most familiar in. Lumeris is the exception to this rule, but we'll get back to that. At first glance, this boss order that I pretty much went with, well, looks really dumb. The twins are considered to be the hardest mech, and it's the first one. Again, it's based on what I feel most familiar with, and since on my many previous Infernum runs I've done, I've always got mauled by them, I kinda got good at the fight, to where now they're my best mech. And you'll kinda notice it's a somewhat reoccurring theme in the run, where I struggle in fights which are not considered hard in a normal run, since you could just eat the hit and move on, but, we kinda can't do that here, so yeah. I want to switch my current summon with a Sanguine Staff, since its summon accuracy is legit next level. Like, legit post-summon weapons have less accuracy than this summon. Like I mentioned before, I felt really good at the twins, and they go down in 4 attempts. Just like that. Before Lumeris, I went to craft myself the Harpy Wings, which are just a little bit strong in a no-hit run. Since she's technically not an Infernum fight, I pretty much placed her here since that's where boss checklist placed her right after the twins. She's easily the hardest boss in this subsection out of the 7, since, deadass, this was my second time ever beating the boss. So what was my strategy? Slime God strat, run away. But in all seriousness, this fight was super fun and the music is fire, and I had a great time while fighting this fight. The Brimstone Elemental is up next, and she was done mainly for a summon since, well, it's similar to the Sanguine Staff, but less accurate and does far more damage. Unlike almost all other Infernum fights, which are super fast paced, the Brimstone is really slow paced and just easy in a general sense. She goes down in 3 attempts, and my god, 3 minutes and 14 seconds? My damage is terrible! Thank god she's a bum. But the real bum of Infernum is Skeletron Prime. But is he still a bum in a no-hit run? Well, actually, no. He took 38 attempts, he didn't get dog-walked for once. Maybe he beat the fraud allegations when it comes to a no-hit run. But he's still a bum-ass fraud when it comes to a normal Infernum run. I think he's like this so we don't have another pre-nerf Death Master Skeletron Prime event. And, we don't talk about Death Master Skeletron Prime. And so, I am left with 3. These 3 are bar none my most unfamiliar fight in this entire section. Out of all the 3, I decided to go for the Aquatic Scourge. Hey, editing me mid-intermission, and I actually didn't do Aquatic Scourge first, it was Cryogen, and yeah, you'll see why I kinda just misremembered, that's entirely on me, back to the video. And I quickly noticed my arena size had a problem, and I was dying a lot of the time since my arena was simply too small. But it takes pretty long to mine out these blocks, nothing a City Buster can't fix. Oh no. Oh, he enrages out of the water. It can't be that bad. Oh god, it's like pretty bad. Okay, what if I go to my second biggest area? Oh, I got like no room. And the Sanguine Staff is just not good against the Destroyer. And the other summon I got from the Brimstone Elemental is just inaccurate. So, Cryogen it is, I guess. Who is meant to be my last fight. Oh boy. I am just really bad at this fight. Most people consider him to be the easiest out of the ones in this section, and he is. I am just really bad against him. Like, I don't know, my brain just turns off when he summons those ice pillars, and, well, it just kinda farts and dies. Like, I hard abused the raw Discord in this fight like my life was on the line. But the most difficult part is the fact that he enrages outside of the tundra, which means he takes no damage, which means you have a smaller arena. And, well, my snow biome isn't the biggest. But eventually, with me holding Rage plus Adrenaline for a specific move in the final phase Cryogen does, I pretty much use the 1-2 combo of Rage and Adrenaline and he goes down. All that's left in this section is both the worms, and hey, look at that, the missing water is now filled up. And remember that detour I did for the Brimstone Elemental for a better Sanguine Staff, only to turn out to be, you know, incredibly terrible? It actually works against the Scourge, because it's actually slow enough to where the minions can land its hits, so it's not totally useless. And a quick minion swap at the 3rd phase and take a wild guess on what summon I use. And oh look at that, he's now dead. And even after those 6 bosses, I still kinda don't have a good summon option against the Destroyer. This might be the point where I have to build switch from my brain dead summoner strategy, aka my favorite class, into something else. Is what I would say if the Deep Sea Staff didn't exist. Wait, it's just a reskin of the Dank Staff. Wait, it's a reskin of the Dank Staff! If there was one section which I could redo, it's 100% this section. I would have changed the strategy to where Aquatic Scourge would be first, and then the rest of the order doesn't really freaking matter because Summoner goes brrr, and there goes the Destroyer. With the mech subsection now finished, Hallowed and Glorified gear now open up, but the Deep Sea Staff still remains supreme. Being for real, this summon was viable for me till like Plantera, and me getting the Raven Staff. Straight up, the only meaningful upgrades I got was a whip upgrade and the new boots. And now, it's time for one of the most infamous boss in a no-hit Infernum playthrough, the Forgotten Shadow of Calamitous. This boss is considered to be the first major roadblock into Hardmode for entirely one reason: RNG. The RNG part are the hexes that are applied to you. You are always applied with one hex the first half of the fight, and two during the second half. Some of the hexes do nothing, just lowering your defense, and then there are some which makes the fight insanely hard. The main combo for me which I found difficult was the Hex of Zeal, which accelerates the boss' magic projectiles it fires, paired with either the Hex of Catharsis, which has a homing projectile near the player, or the Hex of Indignation, which has an eye circling around the player which shoots projectiles periodically. This combo, in my own opinion, is why Scout Cologne freaking sucks to no-hit. If you get this combo, you have to be near the startup of the attack, since if you're too far away, you would likely get hit by one of the stray projectiles that it fires out. But astute viewer, you may have realized that if you're too close to the attack, then the homing projectile or the mini eye stray projectile will likely hit you. And congratulations, you figured out why the fight can be hard. If you roll well in the hexes department, you can do this fight pretty easily to no-hit. And if you don't, well, too bad. How'd it go for me? Well, I rolled pretty well. I beat the fight in 54 attempts. Time for me to open my boss bag and check my OBS recording and... oh, my game crashed. Oh, that's alright, I already beat the boss, so it's all good. It didn't save the kill. Let's just move on, okay? Plantera time, and I have a confession. I don't really like the Plantera fight. I just find it very... well... meh. Nothing that interesting, I don't know if this is like a hot take or something, but that's just how I feel about the fight. And when no-hitting her, she goes down with a decent amount of attempts put in. Plantera's defeat brings me a much potential power boost in our strength, mainly with the Pumpkin Moon. As I mentioned in passing before, I am aiming for the Raven Staff. It is incredibly fast and does really good damage. It may not be the highest for all the summons, but it is bar none the most consistent when it comes to damage. But before even attempting the Pumpkin Moon, my current gear is really subpar. So I went to pick up some Tiki armor and do the Solar Eclipse to get the Deadly Spear Staff, which, that's right, it's the original dank staff of Vanilla Terraria. God, I love balls. We use the balls to beat up the guys from the Pumpkin Moon and eventually get the Raven Staff, and bless the Fargos Mutant Mod for giving me a summon for the Pumpkin, and we get the Dark Harvest eventually. And when farming those two, I eventually picked up the materials I needed for the Spooky armor set and its wings. The Prophet, another boss from Calamity Entropy, and I'm going to hold off talking about him for now, you'll see why. Rapid fire time, Anahedon Leviathan. My setup is just ridiculous and they just get massacred by the birds, and they go down super easily in just 3 attempts. Astrum Aureus, I took him on a walk, and then he died. Next up is, oh yeah, I played the Sloome mod, and I had this guy for some reason. He had the same fate as Anahedon Leviathan, the birds got him, he has some really cool gravity change mechanic, which was super neat. Okay, time to talk about this thing. There are 2 fights in the whole run, both from Calamity Entropy, which I skipped and did overgeared. Eventually, as you see in the playlist, I did beat them on tier. I typically don't want to give the light on add-on fights too much. There are exceptions to this rule, but in a general sense, this is an Infernum video, not an insert add-on video. But I have to talk about this fight. The fight itself has nothing wrong with it. No. The problem is the arena. It is fought in the Ceaseless Void arena, and it is way too small. In a normal run, it doesn't really matter, since you can just eat the hit and move on. I can't do that. Every single one of its attacks takes up half the damn arena, and the boss's size is ridiculously large. I think too large for this arena. And back to the attacks, every time it throws out an attack, you're basically pushed to the edge of the arena with no time to dodge the follow-up. This would consistently happen. Oh, so just build a bigger arena, and then boom, you already got your Poltergeist arena. Except, no, he enrages whenever he's outside the dungeon wall area. Oh, so just cover it up with, the dungeon walls. Except, no, it still gets angry and insta-kills you basically. So, just shimmer the walls so you can basically have the walls which have enemies spawn in the background of the dungeon, and you should be good to go. Except, no, he still gets mad and enraged and kills you. So let me just recap this fight. The attacks cover half the arena, not if more of some, and the follow-ups are so close to the player to where you can't react. Yeah, this fight is totally meant to be no-hit. This fight got me so frustrated since I've been placing so many walls and built 2 whole arenas. Like, legit, majority of the time in this recording in the VOD is just me building the arena for the profit, only for it to basically do nothing because it's technically not in the dungeon biome. And my god, there are some fights that are not meant to be no-hit, and this is a prime example of it. It is a perfectly good and very excellent normal fight, which is very much underrated, but it is not a good no-hit fight. God, I just wanted to move on to basically better designed fights. Golem is now up, and thank the Terraria gods, I found another case of legendary masochist Golem. Anything but that. Infernum Golem to me feels very turn-based, but at the same time, not at all, because it's like Terraria. I don't really know how to describe the fight, but it's like different good, like really good. I still think it's the most improved fight, jumping from vanilla to Infernum mode. With Golem now dead, we enter the last third of hard mode. When entering Pre-Cultist, you are actually allowed to challenge any of the 3 main Pre-Cultist bosses, the Plaguebringer Goliath, Duke Fishron, and the Empress of Light, in whichever order you want to, so I went with the Empress first. Eventually I got the kill, but it was like super under the minimum hit length and is basically unverifiable. And a good amount of time later, I realized if I wanted to basically, brute force a win, I should challenge the other 2 bosses, which are considerably easier in my own opinion than Empress of Light, and use their loot to basically make Empress easier. So, out of the 2 of them, I decided to go with the Plaguebringer Goliath, since its drops are more catered towards Ranger and Summoner, unlike Duke's which are more catered towards Melee and Mage. The fight for me was surprisingly easy. I beat it in a mere 12 attempts, but I did the most diabolical iframe ram dash abuse. Seriously, and I landed it on my winning attempt. It kinda makes sense why the Calamity dev teams are nerfing them, well at least the amount of iframes you get, because there is no reason for me to get away with this. Seriously. With the new weapon plus armor I got from Plaguebringer Goliath, I decided to put a lot more attempts into Empress before deciding that I really need those Fishron wings from Duke. It would make the fight a lot easier due to aerial mobility being the main gimmick of, the Empress fight. So eventually I went after Duke Fishron, and for some reason I was like failing every single ram dash opportunity from Duke. But hey, it is what it is, and after a short 40 attempts, Duke goes down. Now it's back at Empress again, and at this point she was starting to stack up a lot of kills against me. But I didn't actually mind, since this is actually my favorite fight in all of hard mode, and it's not even close. There are fights which are designed to be no-hit, and Empress is a prime example of this. All of her moves are fast but fair and always telegraphed, and the overall flow of the fight is just perfect. But it doesn't mean at all that she's easy, especially with the full moon attack. This attack is the reason why I picked up the Fishron wings. It's basically a mid-fight desperation attack that she could throw out. In a no-hit run, this move is required for you to have for it to be verifiable, and man, it is the hardest move to dodge easily for me that she has in her entire kit. But man, when you do, it just feels incredible. Many consider Empress to be one of the best fights in Infernum, and she is well deserving of that title. Now it's time to stand still to win since we're fighting the Ravager next. And yeah, just stand still to win. I had this kinda cool raw Discord dodge on one of my failed attempts, but besides that, he's kinda just, well, fodder. Honestly, same goes with Lunatic Cultist. Legit the hardest part of the entire fight is his opening fireball moves and his desperation phase with, like, you know, the projectiles firing out. But calling the fight difficult for both of them is being very generous. I think the cultist mainly needs to have a health increase, and well, Ravager, he's fine. The standing still gimmick is really unique, so I wouldn't change him. As it stands right now, there are only 4 bosses remaining till post Moonlord, and finishing the Gauntlet of Hardmode being 24 bosses. And out of the 4, we need to address the most difficult one, Astrogelon. He was bar none the hardest fight out of the 4, and possibly, no, not even possibly, likely the run so far. So I need to basically pick up every single possible upgrade before I fight Astrogelon. So first on the list after getting the Static Curse was going to be Briefed Vassal. Going into this fight, if you exclude the Dreadnoughtus, the Briefed Vassal is easily my most unfamiliar Infernum fight, and it showed. I didn't really know what I was doing. Sure, I got the kill in 8 attempts, which I was under the minimum hit length, go figure, and eventually moved on. But it was more so that I got lucky than actually me knowing what I was doing, so take the win with a huge grain of salt. I did the Briefed Vassal first since you can get a side grade whip from the Kaleidoscope from it. It's like a slightly better upgrade from the whip, but we need every little upgrade we can get for Astrogelon. For Astrodeus, I didn't really understand the fight, but he kinda suffered the same fate as the Destroyer. He just kinda popped after I pressed Rage and Adrenaline, and that's another no-hit that I have to redo after I finish editing. Great. And now it's time for Astrogelon. Throughout all of pre-hard mode and hard mode, Astrogelon alone is on a tier of his own. For the first phase, it's actually not that bad. It only took me a mere 2 attempts for me to get him all the way to phase 2, only dying once to the Flame Light attack. But when dropping the health to 0, get ready, since he becomes debatably the hardest fight in the entire run. So, what exactly makes this fight so hard? Well, consistently throughout my many attempts, I found that there was 4 main points. The Nova Lance attack, this specific slime ball attack with the Star Barrage combo, the amount of space each attack takes up, and lastly and most importantly, the length of the fight. The Nova Lance attack is the most simple of all the attacks he has, and yet I am just really bad at it. You don't really have much time to determine A, which version of the Nova Lance attack it is, whether you should move vertically or horizontally, and B, adjust accordingly to it. But the most important part is the fact that the Nova Blaster attack, you have to dodge multiple of them back to back to back. Say you position yourself badly after the first few Nova Blaster strikes, well, you're just kinda dead to the follow-up strike, and that actually is incredibly common and happens a lot of times to me. The second is the combo of the Slime Balls plus the Star Barrage combo, and it is here for entirely one reason: when it shows up. It is the second to last move he throws out before going into desperation, so it is literally going to be your least familiar move you know, and it is also one of, not if the most difficult move he can throw out. At the 11th hour of the fight. Yeah. Why does he have this? He just kinda has it to screw you over? I swear, man. A general problem that I have is legit how every single phase 2 moves has attacks which for some reason covers the entire arena. Of course there are openings to dodge his attacks, but when it's consistent for the attacks to cover, what, half the arena, and more in some cases, it just gets ridiculous. And the craziest part of it all is the fact that this and all of that crap that I mentioned before can be forgiven and looked past if it wasn't for the length of the fight. This guy is so damn tanky. He is the only boss in the entire run who can eat 2 adrenalines plus a rage and also a little bit of follow-up 3rd adrenaline. I'm going a pure damage summoner build here, and his defensive stats are just absurd to the point of just being comical. Why can bro eat more adrenalines than Scal, Exomex, Avatar, and even Nameless Deity can? The fight link just exacerbates the problem of the other 3 issues and makes them even more prevalent, and after 263 attempts, I bring them all the way down to 0, make it through all the way to the desperation, and finally get to challenge Moonlord. I died to the literal last attack he has. I'm gonna move on from my own sanity, okay? And here's me going back and eventually doing a no-hit on the guy, so yeah. With that nightmarish fight out of the way, it is now time for Moonlord, my gateway into post-Moonlord, where my pain really starts. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. Mainly because my damage was, well, next level, and like, he goes down super easily. And man, that's really anticlimactic. I mean, I went stupidly under the minimum hit length. But remember all the way back at the start of the video? Yeah, I did most of those no-hits after I was done editing everything and then added them to the playlist before uploading the main video, you know, this one. But there are 3 main exceptions to this: Exomex, Poltergast, and Moonlord. And after redoing his no-hit, man, I really underestimated his fight. Man, adding those extra 40 seconds makes the fight, you know, leagues harder, to the point where it goes from a nothing burger of a fight to one of the higher tiers of difficulty. I thought I would have this no-hit done in like 30ish attempts since I initially got the first no-hit in 27 attempts. Which I almost did. Keyword on almost. And now that I redid the no-hit, Moonlord really showed me how difficult his fight really is when you're not just blitzing him with damage, invalidating the entire fight. With that, we move on to post-Moonlord. So, now that I'm in the final major section of the run, what exactly opens up? Well, this is the part of the game where your builds in all types of classes starts to become ridiculously strong, to the point where you have to be careful with your damage to not, you know, out DPS the minimum hit length. For new gear and upgrades, for starters we get the Stardust armor set, a new pair of wings to go with the Stardust armor set, an extra accessory slot, but the main thing is weapons. I went with the old reliable Elemental Axe for Summoner. It's really good at homes and pretty much everyone uses it. The Tactical Plague Engine is also pretty good, on par, and in some cases even better than the Elemental Axe. But I just like the Elemental Axe more because it goes with my aesthetics with my wings. With all that being said, we move on to Dragon Foley, and remember how I mentioned that we need to be careful with the damage I deal? Well, on the first boss, we reach a problem. What you're seeing here is a losing attempt, but just look at how much damage I do. Like, what? In 27 seconds, I nearly do half of its entire health. Like, bro, the damage is too much. And this is also underestimating my DPS, since it took 2 seconds for the boss to despawn, meaning that I did half of its health in 25 seconds. Yeah, clearly way too much damage. So for nearly all of post Moonlord, I literally had to nerf myself. No use of any evil biome effigies. The buffing candles go from sometimes I'm using the damage one and sometimes using the flight one to always using the flight one. And I change all my accessories from menacing all to quick all, and that stays permanently on throughout the rest of the entire run. And in some cases, I don't even use Rage and Adrenaline at all. And in cases when I do use it, I only usually use it at the end of the fight once I've reached a minimum hit. As for Dragon Foley, or Foley, or however you want to pronounce it, stacking mobility makes you like zoom across the entire arena, to the point where most of the attacks don't work and we can use the classic old reliable strategy of running away to win, which works since we're just that fast. In a normal Infernum playthrough, the Guardians is the first main difficulty spike that all players feel. You can choose out Moonlord as you saw I did in my first clear, but the Guardians, no. You have to actually be good with the Guardians or they will cook you. The Flappy Bird phase is nothing too notable. It's pretty easy to dodge and it's just fire pillars plus the occasional laser blast on the player. There is a cheese strat which you can do by waiting at the starting point and then get your adrenaline fully built and then move past the crystal phase and well you can instantly rip your adrenaline and move on to the second phase of the duo Guardians, or hold on to the adrenaline and rip the adrenaline whenever you want to. For the Healer Guardian phase, my summon damage is usually enough to be able to not have to deal with the Raining Crystal attack plus the Dash and Guardian combo, so the Healer phase is not that bad, but for me personally, the Duo Guardian section is the most brutal part of the entire fight, because you know with the final phase you have adrenaline up by then, and then you can just press your insta-win key. Yeah. Mainly the cross-dash rock combo throw. Jesus, that's a mouthful to say. Man, this attack was just rough, but surprisingly it wasn't for the dashes or crosses. No, it was for the rock that the defender threw. Like, what? A lot of the time my movements were done poorly, but it would be enough to get by, from the crosses and dashes. But the rock, well, it's not good enough for the rock. The rock kills you. This usually happened because my movement really never took the defender into account. The only other brutal attacks that these chicken nuggets have is this barrier attack, where the commander just stands in the center shooting fireballs outwards from it when the defender dashes at you, and just look at it, you can kind of tell why it's like really hard to dodge. As for the final phase, it is the most brutal one of all. Oh wait, we have adrenaline. Huh. Easy. With Providence Guardians dead, the crystal blocking us from the Profane Temple is unlocked, and we venture into its depths to challenge the Profane Goddess herself, Providence. To me, Providence is the highlight of the entire run, so what exactly makes this fight the best one of the whole run for me? Well, it reminds me a lot of the Mutant, mainly due to the pacing of this fight, mainly seen in Phase 2. And fun fact, Masochist Mutant is my favorite boss in all of modded Terraria, so if you get me to have the same feeling I did against the Mutant in this fight, you know the boss is done very well, at least to me. But enough shilling for Fargos, let's get into the fight itself. The pre-phase I thought was going to be brutal, but surprisingly it was fairly easy. I swear, it feels like they nerfed it in comparison to what it was in the past. Basically my strategy here is that I jump dash when the fireballs got close, and that was pretty much it. Phase 1's opening attack is nothing difficult. Slowly rise from the bottom while baiting the fireballs downwards below you, and then you should be golden. The attack is more so about testing if you will panic, since it is a very simple move to dodge in actuality, but it is incredibly intimidating when first looking at it. As for the follow-up attacks, they are fast and are meant to catch you off guard with its speed. It goes from being slow, then fast, to slow, and then fast again. But when Phase 2 hits, it goes from a great boss to the best fight in the entire run. Phase 2 is all gas non-stop. From fireballs, spears, lava geysers, explosions, little fireballs, it really has it all. But nothing even comes close to the breakneck speed of Providence entering her crystal phase. She may only have 3 moves, but my god, those 3 moves are on a tier of their own. Every single one of those attacks are deadly, and you need extreme precision and reaction time to dodge them. Take crosses for example, a move which fills your entire screen with a stupid amount of projectiles, which, man, even now I still have no idea how you're meant to dodge this from conventional means. I mean, just look at it. It's just too much, man. Not to mention the rocks she has around the crystals are also hitboxes. Straight up, for my current skills, I can't even pull a dodge out of my ass of using the Rod of Discord. It's just too much. So, how did I dodge it? Well, I decided to look into the most extreme versions of this attack, the nighttime variant of Providence. Some no-hitters use the static hook to dodge these crosses, and if it works for them on nighttime Providence, it's gotta be way easier on the daytime version. But man, it was not easy. It took a lot of failed attempts to get somewhat consistent. I would say by my winning attempt, I could make it out of the cross section around like 60% of the time if I'm being generous, and 50% of the time if I'm being more realistic. As for the follow-up attacks, they are entirely based on general reaction time, and all I have to say is, thank you Legendary Masochist for improving my general reaction time. And finally, Dogma. Many consider Dogma to be one of the hardest attacks to dodge in all of Infernum. It is a pair of 11 fast death lasers back to back to back. with lava fireballs constantly rising beneath the player, meaning that you always have to constantly move. The Dogma attack is the climax of the entire fight, testing every skill you learn throughout the entire fight. Reaction time, careful movement, positioning, and reading telegraphs all are tested at once from this rapid array of brutal attacks. Overall, to me, Providence is the best fight of the entire run, and easily is the highlight of the first half of post Moonlord, and hell, the run entirely. Nothing even comes close to the breakneck pace of her fight, and I love it. With the goddess defeated, pre-Poltergeist opens up. Infernum Poltergeist is like the boss you never expected to be difficult, is actually difficult. And just like Astrogelon, I need every upgrade I could possibly get before it. The main summon I use is the Dazzling Saber Staff. Legit, it is a beast during this section post Moonlord. This is when you can really start going crazy with minion mixing, but this and the Elemental Axe in the previous section are just so strong to the point where there's no need to minion mix until really after Poltergeist, and if you really want to push it, after Yaron. Of course, I got the new dash from Providence plus her wings, and the Profane Soul. And don't worry, I made sure that I'll still die in a single hit to every single attack. So, yeah. But I also stick with my current armor set, Stardust, since there's no need to change my armor set to the more defensive one, which opens up after defeating Providence. Since I'm already nerfing myself, no need to nerf myself even more. With that, we go into the Sentinels, and they aren't really that hard. I use the Varied Vanguard when going into the Weaver, and it just kind of pops. Back to using the Dazzling Saber on Cygnus, and he has the unique ability of despawning my summons. Very fun ability, and totally not because my arena is too small, but he goes down just the same as the rest of them. And as for the Ceaseless Void, the attempt count is only that high because remember the Prophet and my rant about it, and only now I actually beat it pre-Ceaseless Void. As for the Void itself, it's a interesting fight. And oh yeah, the guy from Calamity Entropy, they go down too. If you include my first clear plus my no hits, Poltergeist took over 600 attempts, Jesus Christ. And what's even more sad is the fact I don't really have much time to talk about it because, well, this is the last section I'm editing in the entire video, so yeah. With putting to rest the souls of Yaram's unfed prisoners, we move on to the dash fight, where, you guessed it, we dash. We use the Poltergeist summon we got from Poltergeist, and we use it to challenge Old Duke. And he is a boss, one of them, and he does dash a lot. Two attempts. Alright, you probably want a bit more than he was easy, let's move on. So, for starters, let's talk about how Infernum Dog is similar to other bosses from other games. I think this is the best comparison to explaining why I think he is easy. Spoilers alert for DLC from DS3, Ring City to be exact. But to me, Dog is most similar to Midir. A weird comparison, but hear me out, okay? Both are infamous for consistently just crapping out damage. Both have very easy telegraph attacks, which always tells the player what their new move or next attack will be. Both are incredibly punishing whenever you make a single mistake, which can outright kill you right then and there. Both drop significantly in difficulty on repeat playthroughs, and most importantly, both are mechanically simple in comparison to their respective late game fights. To me, Midir and Dog follow the same design philosophy of difficult to learn but easy to master, and since I've put an unhealthy amount of hours in Infernum, that statement rings true. Infernum Dog was a nightmare on my first run, and I still talk about him like he's the boogeyman, but man, once you understand the fight, the Serpent is really easy to conquer. Yaron is the last boss of the Dash arc. The bosses started with the Boomer Fish and ends with the Chicken Nuggets, but before the bird, we have to collect some upgrades. We switch to the Silva armor, grab a new weapon, and some new accessories, and with that, we are ready to rock. Yaron is like Dog in a sense, but just less extreme. It's not like Dog when you get the fight, you get the fight. Yaron, there is some variables with more dashes, fireballs, and raining down from the sky fireballs, making it far less fixed than the dog fight, but still has elements which are mainly in phase 2, which are very similar to Dog. Yaron is more so a fight about reaction time and patterns than anything else. Positioning wasn't really a factor, just kinda go up and down and you just, can kinda rock by just bullcrapping it, surprisingly. I personally find the first phase to be way harder than the second phase, because legit, the second phase is just dash key and then you win. No, legit, I have my dash key as right click, and so it's like super free. So when he starts aggressively ramming into me, he just kind of blows up and dies. Yeah. And I almost threw on my winning attempt against Yaron, and that would have been my Inferno moment of all time. And with that, the dash art comes to its end. With it, we hear the legendary soundtrack of the third interlude, Catastrophes Before Calamity. It tells us our journey is reaching its end point. Orc Ore now opens up with all its upgrades with it, but more importantly, minion mixing. It starts to play a huge impact on our damage as Summoner. You can argue that I should have started doing this as soon as we hit post Moonlord, or hell as early as Plaguebearer and Goliath, but now we have to minion mix to be on par with the other classes' damage from this stage in the game onwards. For upgrades, the aforementioned Orc Ore can be used to upgrade to Orc Armor, to get the Nucleogenesis, and the Wings of Rebirth which drops from Yaron. For minions, we pick up the Lives of Finality in the Brimstone Crags, the Kings of Constellations we still use, and the Mirrors of Caladra, and the Staff of the Mech Worm to finish it off. With all of that, we take on the Primeval Worm and it goes down really easily. With that, we are down to 7. These 7 make up a total of half the total videos I have on my unedited playthrough playlist, with each fight taking at least 100 attempts or more, and me spending literal days on each and every fight. Ladies and gentlemen and friends beyond the binary, the storm is here. As I mentioned before, these 7 took half the total playtime just to beat them. So enough setup, let's just get into the first of the 7. The first Goliath is the Cruiser. I didn't beat him until much later, so I won't talk about him for now. Wait, you know what? Stop the music. I won't talk about him. This is the worst fight of the whole run. There are some fights which I believe are not meant to be no-hit and are designed around taking damage at one point or another. The Cruiser is a fantastic fight one-on-one, and is one of the most underrated Calamity add-on bosses, but doing a no-hit is just bad, man. Okay, here's a clip of me spawning the boss in. Now tell me, what hit me? Like, no, seriously, why did I die here? And then here's another clip of me spawning the boss in again, and oh, it happened again. Okay, so it's just a weird glitch that happens every so often. No, I wish it was a glitch like that. But no, this thing happens constantly. I think I died to this over 50, maybe give or take 60 to 70 times. Straight up, if I highball this, I would say 1/4 of my total deaths against this boss is just the boss kind of saying, yeah, I kind of feel like right now I get to one-shot you because, why not? Like, how is this fun? I put this guy so much on the back burner that I fought him post-Exomech Scala and Goomza and fucking Mars. Yes, I fought this dude who you're meant to fight pre-Exomechs and right after Yaron with Shadow Spec gear. That's how much I thought this fight was terrible. Not to mention his stupidly high HP, how unclear some of the hitboxes are at times. No, seriously, this lingering trail in phase 2 is always going to kill you, but when he starts doing these dashes, now it doesn't hurt you. How was I meant to know that? You basically already established that these lingering trails kill you, and now for some reason during this specific attack, it doesn't hurt you? Again, it's just, the boss doesn't communicate very well at times, and it just makes it so frustrating to no-hit it. I'll end this section by saying this fight is a great boss fight, but not a good no-hit fight. You will notice every single problem with it. So if the boss is not going to respect me, why should I respect it? Now into a fight which I actually enjoy, Draydon's perfected creations, the Exomex. Until Mars is like built 2 seconds later after you beat the Exomex, but that's just a Wrath of the Gods lore retcon, so let's look past that. But you guys, I really love the Exomex fight for mainly 2 reasons. The first is all the unique combinations you can go to. Seriously, the fight changes radically and it's super cool and unique. I love this concept and idea. And the second is I can show you how stupidly strong Summoner DPS truly is, since, well, there's kinda no minimum hit length rule for Exomex. So I could finally stop holding back and nerfing myself by going quick all and slap menacing all and get a diabolical kill time on them. But of course this meant I had to redo the no hit since it was like stupidly low, but I really wanted to see how fast I could take out the mechs. Most people generally go with the mech combination of Ares plus Artemis and Apollo, then have Thanatos as your solo mech, since it's generally considered to be that the eyes are the hardest solo mech to face. Going with the previously mentioned combination drastically lowers the difficulty of Ares, but more importantly the eyeballs. But you see, the final phase for both of those mechs are desperation phases, and well, I kinda suck at every single desperation phase. So yeah, no. So what combo did I go with? Well, the only mech combination which has no desperation phase for its final phase is Thanatos plus Ares, and have the solo mech be the eyeballs. To put it bluntly, the first 2 phases are easy. Thanatos is similar to Devourer of Gods, but of course with the ever-present mod Terraria signature Death Laser, and the only kind of BS attack that Thanatos can throw out are the Shuriken attacks, but honestly it's not that bad. Add Ares to the combination, and well, you basically have a spinning death laser with some katanas that you have to basically go from the top of the world to the bottom of the world, dashing away from the slices. But yeah, it's pretty easy to get past those first 2 sections. But now, onto the biggest reason why I believe people don't go this mech combination. Apollo plus Artemis. And yes, it's brutal, especially when they stray away from doing their bread and butter attack, what you're seeing right now, and start doing one of their various unique attacks. This is easily the hardest section of the entire fight, and the part which I died the most to. But hear me out. What if you don't have to deal with this section? Seems appealing, but viewer, I hear you saying, you have to fight the eyes solo, since you don't want to fight any other desperation phases, mainly the eyes and also Ares. Well, let me introduce you to big PP damage. We summon our sentries and then pop a rage to get the eyeballs into their second phase immediately, then resummon the sentries. After that, rip adrenaline, and then say goodnight to the eyeballs. They are brought down to 0 so fast they are only able to use their bread and butter combo move, which I am the most experienced with, aka the easiest part of their entire combination. And finally, it is just the same thing as we did with the Ares plus Thanatos phase, but there are more death lasers and the katana slashes are faster. And look at that, it's just Thanatos, and since it's not a desperation phase, I don't choke it, and the Exomex go down in a mind-bending minute and 45 seconds. And if you're kinda disappointed with how fast that no-hit was, don't worry, I went back and redid the no-hit with the melee class, and I beat it in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Still pretty fast, but I think it's more acceptable that way. Supreme Witch Calamitous marks the pinnacle of difficulty throughout the whole run. Nothing from this point forth comes close in difficulty. So, what exactly makes her fight so difficult? I've dealt with bosses with a lot of phases, and really lengthy fights too, but the sheer amount of attacks that she can throw out is just overwhelming in comparison to everything that came before it and since. Not to mention, this fight more than any other fight, you cannot melt. The minimum hit length is 3 minutes and 20 seconds, so my ooga booga bonga damage goes burr strat is out of the question. For me, there was 2 major roadblocks in the fight. Phase 1, and you guessed it, the desperation phase. For For the first phase, the worm section isn't actually that bad, since almost everyone universally agrees that we don't like the sepulcher phase, and we just melt him. But for some reason, only in phase 1, I legit lost all my muscle memory in the following months after not touching Infernum. Mainly with this brimstone skull, bat, thing, whatever it is, attack. This was like my Achilles heels, like seriously. In addition for this brimstone bat attack being the thorn in my side throughout all of phase 1. The way I dodge both of these moves are far from the conventional means that everyone else uses. The way I dodge the skulls is from me moving up and down and typically dashing back or forth and finding an opening to squeeze in between them. This was my consistent method in the past to dodge this attack, but for some reason it just wasn't clicking. As for the brimstone bats, I would position myself to the top right and then pretty much dash back slightly, then immediately slime out down, and you should fit perfectly in between the fireballs plus bats. But I don't know what was up, but it was just not happening, and nothing worked like it did in the past. Which is super weird since it was like an anomaly to me during this fight, since it was really only phase 1 that I had this muscle memory problem. Because when I make it past phase 1 of my earlier attempts, I usually at least make it to the brothers, maybe even push it to when she makes it into phase 3. So I knew I didn't entirely lose all my muscle memory from the past 4 months plus an extra month of me editing my legendary masochist run. So it was very demoralizing just dying at the part which, in the past, I was very good at. But that does not mean at all that the other phases were a cakewalk, far from it. I had some problems with the brothers phase and baited them correctly, and a bit of problems with my positioning to the Hydra's position weren't exactly how I wanted it to be. But nothing comes close to the amount of attempts I threw in Calamity's desperation phase. I honestly believe I died at least over 15 times, which is crazy since it's meant to be the only guaranteed fixed section of the entire run. And me getting to the desperation phase were not like back to back to back, no, they were dozens of attempts apart, and in extreme cases, hundreds. But I needed the title as one of the most unemployed Terraria YouTubers, and to no-hit Calamitous was the starting point of that. So I kept the grind going. And eventually I managed to pull this off. And with that, I could truly say that I've finally shown respect to the mod, which got me to fall in love with modded Terraria. Thank you, Infernum dev team, for making Infernum and sharing it to the community and giving me one of the best gaming experiences I had in modded Terraria. Not if the best, but just because I've no-hitted all of Infernum does not mean the run is over. Far from it. I've reached the peak, but now I still have a mountain to descend from. We've officially made it to the post-game of modded Infernum, but it does not mean we unlock Shadowspec gear yet. Not until we take down Goomza. Once we do, we are able to craft and obtain post-game weapons, but 2 actually opens up as soon as you beat Exomex and Scout, the Iridescent Excalibur for melee, and the Storm Maiden for rogue. Going either would, well, obviously destroy progression, since we're not meant to have it until we beat Goomza and basically enter post-game. Going to be entirely honest here, if I didn't melt the boss as fast as I did for Phase 2, I could easily see Goomza being the highest death count that I had to a boss, since from my first attempt to my last, there were still moves which I just didn't get at all. But there was one that stuck out entirely for being the most difficult out of all of them. So was it this super black hole attack, or was it the slime ram attack, or even the mega death blaze that he has in Phase 2? No, even scarier. It's this one. Man, I don't know how you're meant to dodge this consistently, it's just ridiculous, at least for me. It reminds me so much of pre-nerfed Promise Consort Radon's like quick slash, like people would say like, oh my god, look at that giant explosion, and then like everyone would be like, nah. The real nightmare is that double quick slash, like that's the real problem. Yeah, this was the equivalent for me. This little slime ball attack. Yeah, I'm not joking. Well, a lot of the time, the run simply just didn't even start, or the attempt on Goomza didn't start, because you throw out this slime ball attack, and then I just kinda, die really easily. All the other moves that he has in Phase 1 are super fine. I love the other different variants of, the slime attacks, from Queen Slime, from both Corruption Slime Paladins, and even get a cameo from Astrogelin. I think all of their attacks are super cool and unique, and I love them. I just can't deal with, like, the Corruption Slime attack. It's just brutal for me. As I mentioned before, I'm going to basically burst the boss down as soon as it enters Phase 2 with Rage plus Adrenaline combo, equals instant death usually. All of that to take Goomza down without having dealing with his second phase, which I'm incredibly unfamiliar with. Usually you would have nowhere near enough damage to burst it down, but with the help of a max level Shattered community, the Sepulchre summon, placing the sentries down prior to Phase 2, and then, altogether, ripping Rage plus Adrenaline once Phase 2 hits, Goomza goes down. With the Forgotten Slime God now defeated, Shadowspec gear opens up. We can now get super OP weapons for all 5 classes, but which one did I go for? In the end, I went for the Profane Soul Crystal, which is a kinda lame answer. There are other options which deal more damage in a fixed scenario, but nothing, and I mean nothing, is more consistent when it comes to damage than the Profane Soul Crystal in any general scenario. And what you're seeing here is me not attacking. This is just me having the summons attack. As soon as I do any input to do an attack, the damage will easily be on par or surpass every other weapon in a fixed or just a general scenario. And of course we pick up the Demon Shade armor set. This is because its armor set effect legit pushes your damage to be next level broken. Draydon completes his final machine and his most powerful creation yet, straight out of the factory to fight you. Mars stands out in this section for being the only boss in this entire section out of the 7 that didn't kill me over 100 times, which is really refreshing. Against Mars, Solon fights with you and she gives you a star shield and a giant death laser. Nothing really stands out in this fight besides Solon dying again before she's meant to, and I'll talk about more about that in the outro and how Solon died like 4 times prior to this, and then like a 5th before she's actually, meant to die. And also, I guess we get no desperation phase. And well, Solon died again. Great. Overall, Mars is like the Gideon Ofnir of this run. He is necessary to have after the brutal ass whooping I received as soon as I entered this section, from Cruiser until now. The Avatar of Emptiness is the first of the gods from the Wrath of the Gods mod, and well, on a normal run he is pretty easy. But in a no-hit run, oh my god, I kept getting my crap rocked by Avatar. I feel like the main reason was due to inexperience. Yep, my worst enemy in this entire run. Throughout the run, I had problems in the most random sections in normal fights. Seriously, from Slime God to Cryogen and now to Avatar. Those 3 fights aren't that hard, but in a no-hit run, man, and specifically for me, I find them incredibly difficult, which made it all the more demoralizing every time I died to Avatar, since I knew in the back of my mind that the finish line is right there. The moves in phase 1, the black hole phase, and the second phase whenever he, pops out of the black hole, aren't that bad. But when hopping into phase 3, oh my god, it is pretty bad. There are mainly 2 moves for this. Avatar's opening move in the 3rd phase, which I still have no idea what's a hitbox and what is not, and the dash is because I legit have the memory of a goldfish. Those 2 moves really skewed the death count that I had from this boss, making it more difficult than it seems. There are other moves which are somewhat problematic, like this frozen wind attack that gives Avatar a stupid amount of damage resistance, just eating damage like it's nothing, giving me Ash of Gel and flashbacks.
Wait, is that the Big Bang?
And yeah, that's like the video. This entire part is unscripted, so if it seems very, you know, not very cohesive, that's why. So what's next, essentially? Hardcore Inferno. That's what I want to try next. And everything that you saw in the video was pre-brainstorm. I think the only no-hit that was done post-brainstorm update, like, was Astrogelin. And that's it. Now I'll talk about, like, you know, stuff that I mentioned that I'll talk about in the outro. Mainly Solon. Solon died like 3 times, and that's because I generated my world without Wrath of the Gods enabled. And I really want to do Solon's questline, and if I simply, you know, use the exotic bag to just summon Avatar, that meant that I skipped the Mars boss fight and everything with Solon, and that'll be super lame, so I just cheated Solon in, I believe, right after Cryogen was beaten, I believe, just off the top of my head. It's been literal months since I've looked up the footage, and I've been so overwhelmed with the other stuff happening, like my college classes, plus, well, obviously editing just put me, you know, put this entire video so far behind. Other future videos I was thinking of, besides obviously aforementioned Hardcore Infernum, is Fargos, something to do with Fargos. I love Fargos, still one of my favorite, not if my favorite content mod. It's that or Infernum, it's very close. I was thinking maybe like I should do a no-hit run, but at the same time I'm like, should I wait for Fargos 2.0? I'll probably make like a poll and be like, hey, do you guys want to see like a Fargos no-hit or something like that? And or should I wait till 2.0? I don't really know. We'll see what I do. And yeah, besides that, have a great rest of the day, rest of the week, and I hope you all enjoy. See ya!